My Kako, a Komomida Curtain Call, a program of reviews, previews, interviews, and features of and or with the great art and artists on Maui and beyond. I'm Paul James Brown. Full disclosure, I auditioned for this show and did not get a call back. It has not affected my review of this show. It's been nearly 20 months since there was live theater on Maui, but now that drought has come to an end due to an historic alliance between ProArts Playhouse and Maui Onstage to bring us a crackerjack production of the comic thriller Clue Onstage, from a screenplay by Jonathan Lynn, written by Sandy Rustin with additional material by Hunter Foster and Eric Price, directed by Kalani Whitford, who was also the set designer. It's the story of 6 strangers, all invited to a curious house for what they know not. But when they arrive and find out they have more in common than they thought, murders happen. Was it Mrs. Peacock in the kitchen with the dagger? Or Mr. Green in the billiard room with the lead pipe? Perhaps Colonel Mustard in the lounge with the wrench? Or maybe Miss Scarlet in the library with the candlestick? What about Professor Plum in the hall with the revolver? Or it might have been Mrs. White with the rope in the billiard room. You'll get that answer when you book your tickets for this limited seating, COVID protocol practice employed Laugh Fest live production at the historic EO Theater, celebrating 93 years of presenting live performances to the people of Maui. Kalani Whitford has created an elegant, inventive, and adventurous setting for his actors to work his magic on. Mr. Whitford tells us in their stylish digital playbill, the film the play is taken from is one of his all-time favorites, and he has seen it, quote, a ridiculous number of times, unquote, since it was released in 1985, and it shows. This play is more of a farce than a murder mystery. The cast dashes about constantly from library to the kitchen to the dining room and every other place on this marvelous multi-scene set. Mr. Whitford's staging broke the fourth wall with fabulous results. The dining room scene was particularly effective. The show was played in a presentational style, with actors frequently giving their lines to the house. I love the way he created each of the scene changes seamlessly, so there was non-stop action from start to finish, and the 7 main cast were on stage for nearly the entire 90 minutes of the show. Since Mr. Whitford has dance in his DNA, the play wasn't so much directed as choreographed. In fact, 2 of the characters actually did a brief tango. The dialogue consisted primarily of one-liners shot back and forth across the stage like an ensemble dance. The entrances and exits were timed perfectly precisely. There's one scene with Kim Federley playing chase music where the choreography is particularly palpable and executed with the precision of an Apple Watch. The cast features several auspicious Maui debuts and some of our best-known actors blending into an ensemble, clearly having the time of their life. Led by newcomer Lance Gray as the butler Wadsworth, who is described in the cast breakdown as a traditional British butler in every sense, uptight, formal, and by the book, presents only a slightly British dialect in a few of his pronunciations, but he doesn't do a full-on one. He is the driving force in this production, and his show-stopping recap of what has happened in the show thus far, about an hour into it, is a tour de force that extensive audience appreciation applause for the excellence of his work demonstrated. He is a welcome addition to the Maui acting stable, and I look forward to his work in the future. Another newcomer who, according to his bio in the playbill, which looks like the one I'll be getting on Broadway next week without the ads, has a dusty old acting degree. He is Dexter Hostetter as Mr. Green. From what I saw, I'm glad he dusted it off and welcome him to the Maui Theater Ohana. It's great to see some new men in the Maui theater scene, and Mr. Hostetter has leading man potential. As the singing telegram girl, Kerrigan O'Brien, could there be a more Irish name, makes the shortest Maui theater debut of all time, but I understand she will be a swing for Miss Scarlet on November 10th and for Yvette on November 4th, so we'll get to see a lot more of her then. Heading the veterans in the cast is, of course, Dale Button, who has been entertaining Maui audiences since 1993. His Don Quixote and Snoopy are among his most memorable roles. As Colonel Mustard, he swings a mean wrench. Then there is Christy Scott as Mrs. Peacock, whose revealing cocktail outfit by costume designer Kat Gregory belies her church-going persona and fits better with the ditzy, conniving wife of a senator. There are few in Maui theater who do batty and hysterics better than Ms. Scott. Ellen Peterson, in her first non-musical lead, and I predict, given what I saw, it will not be her last, as Miss Scarlet the Harlot, plays the sophisticated madam with acerbic wit and great timing. And Ms. Gregory has given her a traffic-stopping, red carpet-worthy sequin gown that allows Miss Peterson to display all her assets to fine effect. I only wish Mr. Whitford had choreographed a little dance for her. Megan Kokomo as Mrs. White, who may or may not have murdered her 5 ex-husbands, plays her with fun and flash. Her soprano voice in the latter part of the show is an inspired choice. Rich Young is Professor Plum, who plays along with the fun with a gun. Rounding out this outstanding cast is well-known member of Power Up comedy Rhonda Hanson Kitts as the maid, Yvette, David Nagard as Body, who does a very convincing dead body twice, Nicole Heinlein as the cook, and Jim Black. According to the playbill, Marcy Smith will be Mrs. White on November 5th and Mrs. Peacock on November 11th and 13th. John Galvin will be Mr. Green on November 7th and is ready to step in for Wadsworth should the need arise, as is Ricky Jones, who is ready to work as Mustard, Plum, Hot Dog, Relish, Ensemble Guy 1, or any other hole that needs a swing. I've already said too much about the set. Let's just say, is there anything in the theater Mr. Whitford cannot do on a very high level? Kudos to Ms. Gregory. Everyone looks great. And I love the obvious mirroring of the characters' names with their dress. Where did she get a mustard-colored suit? Apparently, Lisa Paulson was instrumental in working with the mayor's office to help iron out the details of this production, so it could be performed with the maximum allowable indoor audience. One quibble is the who's who in the playbill leaves off bios of the sine qua non of the theater, the backstage people, the build crew, the running crew, and the house. It is just as important for the audience to know what these people have done as it is the onstage performers. Hopefully this will be corrected in future playbills, especially since they are electronic and there is no excuse, like it would take up another couple of pages. Clue Onstage runs until November 14th, Thursday through Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. and Sundays at 3 p.m. Tickets are available at www.mauionstage.com or call Mrs. Peacock at the box office without the dagger at 242-6969. Be prepared to provide an ID and proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test, which must have been taken within 48 hours of the theater entry when you check in. Audience is required to remain seated and keep masked at all times when in the theater. It's a wonderful, fun night at the theater. Don't miss it. Well, that's Curtain Call for this week. I'm leaving the island for the first time in 20 months for a little vacation. But when I return, I'll have a report on the best of New York theater for you. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Paul James Brown. Ahui ho.